Welcome to Canada Conversations, part of Delaware Debates 2014, produced by Delaware Public Media in collaboration with the University of Delaware Center for Political Communication. I'm Delaware Public Media News Director Tom Byrne. This Canada Conversation, taped on the campus of Delaware State University, focuses on the race for U.S. House, and we are joined by the Green Party candidate for U.S. House, Bernard August. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the privilege.
And we'll start with the most basic of questions. Why are you running for U.S. House?
I'm running for U.S. House because I'm tired of the corruption in Washington.
And for you, what about your qualifications do you feel sets you apart from the other candidates? Maybe some things about your qualifications that people wouldn't know.
I'm your average working guy. I worked as an automobile worker, local 435. I did for General Motors, and I worked for DuPont myself as a plant worker for 12 years. About myself and my feelings are like this. The middle class people in Delaware and across the country are not being heard, and their needs are not being met by the federal government. So to me, to run for office is to try to bring these subjects to fore, such as national health care, single-payer health care, and being a green, of course, which concerns us everybody, is climate change, to do something about that issue, to be sure our country follows the international treaties, which they haven't been, and various other issues related to just working conditions, jobs, creating jobs in the country.
Well, let's talk about jobs. The unemployment rate in Delaware has been hovering just above 6% for some time now, despite the state's efforts to create and retain jobs.
Yes.
If elected, what would you do to help create new jobs and keep existing jobs in the first state?
Well, first of all, to create new jobs, we have to institute new technologies. We're still using an 18th century model, as far as I'm concerned, by burning fossil fuels. I cut my teeth in the anti-nuclear movement, and in order to learn about what would replace nuclear power plants and nuclear war, of course. I'm a peace activist. I would be getting away from those types of energy, that type of energy production, come to some sort of international treaties, and get on with the technology to get rid of all the nuclear waste and all the chemical waste that's going on right now that the world's polluted with. And use my position in Delaware to help clean up Delaware, actually. Delaware's environment is not in very good shape. We have 10 of the largest Superfund sites in the country here. I've been an environmental activist in Delaware for well over 45 years. So I would take my knowledge and my expertise that I have in that, even though I'm not, as you might say, college educated, I do know a lot about these issues and how they could be handled.
I want to ask you also about the budget. Latest recession, obviously a big topic of conversation in Congress, both the budget and obviously the national debt. If elected, how do you address those issues of budget and debt on the federal level?
Yeah, budget and debt. Well, I really believe in investment. I don't believe in giveaways. But the biggest problem I see with our government is its military spending. Military spending and our many wars abroad have bankrupted our country. So we need to actually start talking to our nation friends instead of bombing them, instead of closing down conversations and looking at all sides of all stories. I believe in détente. I don't agree with what's going on right now between our country and Russia. I think the problem is old school mentality from the old communist era, which really doesn't exist now. And there's a bunch of special interest groups, especially the military industrial complex, who are trying to keep the money wagon going for themselves. But there's much easier ways, safer ways to bring peace, to bring world globalization and commerce to each other and help each other out in a positive manner, except through the process of war, which is what our country seems to be involved with right now.
I do want to touch on that again in a moment, but you also mentioned health care a little bit earlier. The Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare as it's known, also has received a great deal of attention, especially in the House, which has repeatedly voted to either amend or repeal it altogether. Where do you stand on the Affordable Care Act, and more broadly, what do you feel should be done to tackle health care in this country?
Well, even under the present Obamacare, I'm thankful for what has gotten passed. It has given a lot of people opportunity to get access to health care. But I have been following the issue for a very long time. And the only way to go would be a single payer type system. We wouldn't have to be rewriting the book on it. We have many industrialized countries that have it now. We can learn from them how they operate their systems, drive our costs, how healthcare costs down through proper investment. I think if you put, according to what I recently read in one document, $400 billion into the healthcare system and covering everybody through $400 billion, which is a drop in the bucket to what's going on in the military budget, you would have $1 trillion in savings and cost over a 10-year period. So that is one way to handle that issue.
One other issue that deals specifically perhaps with Delaware is the increase in the number of businesses that are reincorporating overseas to avoid U.S. taxes.
Right.
This obviously is a big issue in Delaware because it's a large revenue stream, the second largest revenue stream in the state.
Right.
Do you feel that there's something that you could do as a member of Congress to slow that trend?
I would work with anybody that, regardless of their party affiliation, to stop the bleeding of our income. Without a substantial income to run this beautiful country of ours, it will decay, and it already is, suffering from a severe infrastructure decay. Right now, according to the American Society of Infrastructure Engineers, just to get our country up to present levels, just to keep it operational, we need an investment of $1.3 trillion. We will never get that done, and that doesn't include maybe even trying to build a new type of rail systems like the other countries have, just presently what we have. So we have to look at ways to raise monies to do that, to guarantee that businesses have the proper infrastructures to run efficiently and to pay people minimum good money, hourly fair wages and all this type of thing. It's all related to having the fact that we have a good national infrastructure to push along future technologies.
You touched on foreign policy a little bit earlier, and certainly Washington, that is an issue in Washington at this point. So
yes.
Just maybe your thoughts on where intervention would be accepted in your mind in terms of U.S. foreign policy.
Actually, growing up in the Vietnam era, from the Vietnam era, I do not see using our army resources, our military resources, as a police force for a certain economic group, the 1%ers. Most of our money that's being made now is from the processes of military industrial production. So we need to transfer, slow that down, get into treaties, follow the treaties that we already signed, like START 1 and START 2, to reduce I would say, the closeness to the nuclear war, which we are putting ourselves near. And so that has to come about by détente, talking, and recognizing people and their own lands. They have different ways of doing their own way of running their country, and stop acting like a belligerent hegemon.
I want to hit on education. Delaware moving ahead with implementing Common Core education standards. How do you feel about Common Core, and what role do you feel the federal government has in education reform in this country? Well,
I believe myself that I don't like the Common Core. I think that the federal government really should not be in the business of dictating local education and state education. That is, we pay our taxes locally for our own schools, and that education is a local issue for people. Now, the federal government's role in education should be the fact that everybody gets the education that they need. There shouldn't be any discrimination. That's what the federal government's for, as far as I'm concerned. That, you know, there's public education is a right. The enforcement of that is a right for all, you know, people in the United States. As a matter of fact, worldwide, as far as I'm concerned.
And finally, Washington remains mired in gridlock.
Correct.
How do you see yourself working with colleagues in the other parties to tackle pressing issues and get things moving once again in terms of accomplishing things?
Well, Delaware only has one vote in the House. And that's a big promise for me. What can I do?
Sure.
I'm a realistic person. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to make promises that I could do this or I could do that. I'm going to supply you jobs. Or if it means compromising some core values or anything, I won't be able to do that. Mm-hmm. I believe that we can move forward and get out of the gridlock if we could possibly get out of the conservatism of the Republican right and start leaning a little more to the left side and looking at everybody in the picture instead of the 1% corporations that are running the country now.
All right, Bernard August, Green Party candidate for U.S. House. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. You can find all of our candidate conversations online at DelawarePublicMedia.org and DelawareDebates.org. Candidate conversations are taped here at Delaware State University and are part of Delaware Debates 2014, produced by Delaware Public Media in collaboration with University of Delaware's Center for Political Communication. I'm Delaware Public Media News Director Tom Byrne. Thanks so much for joining us.